What if everything you believed about success was a lie? What if working harder, climbing the corporate ladder, and saving for retirement at 65 was not the path to freedom, but a well-disguised trap? Close your eyes and picture this. It's a weekday morning, but instead of rushing through traffic or drowning in emails, you're watching the sunrise from a mountaintop in Peru, or maybe learning to tango in Buenos, or simply spending time with your loved ones without checking the clock. There's no boss, no office, no deadline, and yet your income keeps flowing. Sounds like a dream, right? Tim Ferriss would say, "It's not a dream, it's a choice." In the 4-hour workweek, Ferriss pulls back the curtain on a life that most people think is impossible. A life where freedom isn't something you earn after 40 years of labor. It's something you design right now with the right mindset and a few unconventional tools. This isn't just another self-help book. This is a declaration of war against the rules we've blindly followed for too long. Tim doesn't teach you how to get rich slowly. He shows you how to escape the game entirely. He introduces us to a new breed of people he calls the new rich. Those who trade mindless hustle for meaningful living and busy schedules for complete control over time, location, and income. But here's the twist. The real challenge isn't the system. The real challenge is you, your fears, your doubts, your attachment to comfort and routine. And that's why this audiobook summary isn't just about business or productivity. It's about freedom. Freedom from the noise. Freedom from fear. Freedom from living a life that looks successful on the outside but feels empty inside. So if you've ever thought to yourself, there has to be more than this, then keep listening, because in the next few minutes, we're going to unpack a framework that can completely redesign your life. We'll go deep into the deal system, definition, elimination, automation, and liberation. You'll discover how to break free from the 9 to F5 grind, create income that works while you sleep, and reclaim the most precious thing you own, your time. By the end of this journey, you won't just see the world differently, you'll see yourself differently. You'll realize you don't have to wait for some perfect moment. The tools are here. The path is real. The only question is, are you ready to take the first step? Let's begin with the most important shift of all, music definition. Before you can escape the rat race, you have to understand what race you're actually running. Because most people don't even question it. They're told from childhood, go to school, get good grades, find a stable job, work hard, save up, and maybe one day you can retire and enjoy life. But what if that entire script is outdated? What if the promise of someday is nothing more than a delay tactic that robs you of the present? This is where Tim Ferriss begins with a complete redefinition of success. For the new rich, success isn't about having millions in the bank. It's about having time, mobility, and choice. It's about doing what you want, when you want, with whom you want. It's about living now, not later. He challenges a dangerous myth that money equals freedom. In reality, many millionaires are time poor. They have money but no life. On the flip side, someone earning modestly but traveling the world, working 4 hours a week and spending quality time with family, that person might actually be living richer than the person stuck in a corner office. So how do we begin to think like the new rich? The first step is to let go of fear. Fear is the biggest enemy of freedom. Fear of failure, fear of not being enough, fear of judgment. But here's the truth. Most of what you're afraid of is either unlikely or completely survivable. Tim introduces a powerful technique called fear setting. Instead of asking, what if it all goes wrong? You ask, what's the worst that could happen? And how would I recover from it? Most times you'll realize the worst case scenario is nowhere near as bad as you imagined. Another lie we've been sold is that being busy is the same as being productive. It's not. Business is often just a form of laziness. Lazy thinking, lazy prioritizing. Being constantly busy doesn't mean you're making progress. It often means you're avoiding what really matters. That's why defining your priorities clearly is crucial. What do you actually want out of life? Not what society told you, not what your parents hoped for you. What does your ideal day look like? Who are you with? Where are you? What are you doing? Getting clear on this is the foundation of building your freedom lifestyle. Tim encourages you to write it down, visualize it, make it real, because once you know what you want, the rest of the book becomes a blueprint to create exactly that. The old definition of success was rooted in sacrifice, in delayed gratification, in burnout. But the new definition, it's rooted in intention, lifestyle, design, and the courage to challenge the norm. This is where the journey truly begins. Redefining success is the first step toward living a life most people only dream about. And once your mindset shifts, everything else becomes possible. Now that we've challenged the old definitions and created new ones, it's time to look at what's really eating up your freedom, your time. And that brings us to the next stage of transformation, elimination. Imagine if you could delete half the things from your to-do list and still get better results. Sounds impossible, right? But that's exactly what Tim Ferriss teaches in this chapter. He doesn't want you to manage time. He wants you to eliminate what wastes it. We live in a culture that worships busyness. Being overworked is worn like a badge of honor. But let's face it, most of the things we spend time on every day don't really matter. They don't move us forward. They just keep us busy. And here's the hard truth. Being busy is a form of laziness, lazy thinking, lazy prioritizing. So how do we fix it? Tim introduces the powerful 80-20 principle, also known as the Paro principle. It says that 80% of your results come from just 20% of your efforts. That means a huge chunk of your time and energy is being wasted on things that don't give you meaningful returns. Once you identify that magical 20%, the few actions, clients, habits, or projects that create the most results, you start eliminating or outsourcing the rest. Think about it. Who are the 20% of people who cause 80% of your stress? What are the 20% of tasks that bring you 80% of your income? This isn't just a productivity trick. It's a complete shift in how you think. It forces you to focus only on what really matters. But even after identifying what's important, there's another enemy: distraction. Email notifications, meetings, social media. They eat away at your day in tiny chunks until you look up and realize nothing meaningful got done. Tim's solution, the low-information diet. He encourages you to consume less news, check emails less often, and eliminate constant digital noise. The goal is to create space for deep work, the kind of work that actually changes your life. He also introduces the idea of selective ignorance. You don't need to know everything. You just need to know the right things. Let go of the pressure to stay updated on everything happening in the world. Be ruthless with your attention. Guard your focus like your life depends on it, because your freedom certainly does. And when it comes to meetings, avoid them like the plague. Most meetings are unnecessary and could be replaced with a simple message or decision. Don't schedule calls unless absolutely necessary. Don't agree to every request. Learn to say no clearly and kindly, because every yes is a no to something else in your life. Elimination isn't about doing less for the sake of it. It's about making space. Space for what matters. Space for creativity. A space for freedom. When you cut out the noise, you get clarity. When you eliminate the excess, you find your real power. And that's the essence of this chapter. Focus only on the vital few. Let go of the trivial many. Time is not something to manage, it's something to protect. Now that you've eliminated the clutter, what if you could hand off the rest? What if someone else could do your work while you lived your life? That's exactly where we're headed next. Automation. Now that you've learned to eliminate the unnecessary, it's time to unlock one of the most powerful tools in the freedom lifestyle: automation. Imagine a world where your business runs without you, where income flows in while you sleep, travel, or spend time with the people you love. It sounds like a fantasy, but for Tim Ferriss and thousands who followed his path, it's a very practical reality. Automation begins with a mindset shift. You don't have to do everything yourself. In fact, doing everything yourself is a trap. It keeps you stuck, exhausted, and unable to scale. The solution: build systems, delegate, outsource, let machines and other people handle the repeatable tasks so you can focus on living your life. Tim introduces the concept of building muses, small automated businesses that generate income with minimal time investment. Not a startup, not a big corporate empire, just a lean, low-maintenance income stream that solves a problem, sells a product, and runs with minimal input. Whether it's an online store, a digital course, or a dropshipping business, the key is to create a system that makes money without needing your constant attention. But the magic doesn't stop at business. Tim also talks about outsourcing your personal tasks. Yes, your personal life. He hired virtual assistants in India and the Philippines to handle his emails, schedule appointments, research flights, even argue with customer service while he focused on the big picture. Delegating isn't just for CEOs. It's for anyone who values their time. And here's the secret: outsourcing is no longer expensive. With global talent just a click away, you can hire skilled professionals at a fraction of what you'd expect. The trick is knowing what to outsource and being okay with letting go of control. Tim also warns against becoming a bottleneck in your own business. If you have to answer every question, approve every decision, or touch every part of the process, you're not free. You're just self-employed and overwhelmed. True freedom means creating a system that works without you. He shares techniques for automating customer service, payment processing, and order fulfillment. Every part of a business can be streamlined if you think like a designer, not just a worker. The goal is to remove yourself from the equation wherever possible. And remember, automation isn't about being lazy. It's about being smart. It's about buying back your time so you can spend it where it truly matters, on experiences, growth, relationships, and purpose. At this stage, you've defined your goals and cut the noise and built systems that run without you. But there's still one more chain to break. The office, the location, the invisible leash that keeps most people tied down, and that's where we go next. Liberation. What if your job didn't need to happen in an office? What if your income didn't depend on your location at all? What if you could live anywhere in the world and still earn a living? This is where everything starts to feel real. Liberation is the final step in Tim Ferriss's deal formula, and it's where you reclaim the freedom most people only fantasize about. Freedom of location. You've already eliminated what doesn't matter. You've automated the rest. Now you're ready to break free from the one thing holding most people hostage, the need to be physically present to earn money. This idea is radical because society teaches us that work must happen in a specific place during specific hours in a specific way. But the 4-hour work week flips that idea on its head. Tim argues that once your work is no longer location-bound, you are free. You can live in Bali, Thailand, Mexico, or just your hometown on your own terms. The world becomes your office. A beach cafe becomes your conference room. A train ride becomes your workspace. You stop living for vacations and start building a life you don't need to escape from. But how do you actually make this leap? Tim gives a strategy called the remote work trial. Instead of demanding full-time remote work out of nowhere, you test the waters. Start by asking your boss for 1 day a week working from home, just one. Then prove you're more productive outside the office. Once you've built that trust, expand it. Eventually, you might transition to full-time remote work. Or better yet, you may realize you're ready to leave and build your own path. And if you're already running a business, the goal is to structure it so you don't have to be tied to a location. Use cloud tools. Empower your team. Set clear systems so you can manage things from anywhere in the world. Liberation isn't just physical, it's emotional. It's about breaking free from the mental limits that say this is just how life is. It's about questioning why we live in one place, why we commute, why we sacrifice decades of our lives for reward that comes when we're too old to enjoy it. And here's the most important lesson. You don't have to be rich to live like the new rich. You don't need $1 million to live $1 million lifestyle. If you can earn $2,000 remotely and live in a country where your living expenses are half that, you're freer than a CEO with a mansion and no time. Tim also introduces the idea of many retirements, taking breaks throughout life to explore, learn, rest, and grow instead of saving all your adventures for the end. This mindset reshapes your entire view of time. Life isn't meant to be postponed. It's meant to be lived. So, you've defined your ideal life. You've removed the waste. You've built systems to support you. And now you're free to take that life anywhere you want. But what happens when you get there? When you've achieved freedom, income, and time, what do you do with it? That brings us to the next part of the journey, filling the void. So, you've made it. You've escaped the office, broken free from the 9 to 5, and automated your income. You've got the freedom you always dreamed of. No more alarm clocks, no more pointless meetings, no more asking for vacation days. You're free to go anywhere, do anything. But then something strange happens. A question starts to creep in. Now what? This is the part no one talks about. We fight so hard for freedom that we often forget to plan what we'll do with it. And when all the noise is gone, the busy work, the obligations, the constant striving, we're left with the one thing we've been avoiding all along, ourselves. In this chapter, Tim Ferriss exposes a hidden truth. Freedom without purpose can feel just as empty as the prison you escaped. Many people think money and travel will solve their problems. But once those are no longer problems, they are confronted with something even deeper. The need for meaning. He calls it filling the void. Because when the distractions are stripped away, you're faced with the raw question. What do I really want to do with my life? Some people feel lost. Others feel anxious. A few even fall into depression. Why? Because their identity was tied to being busy. They were always rushing, always achieving. When that's gone, they don't know who they are. That's why Tim urges us to start thinking differently. Not just about how to make a living, but how to make a life. A rich life isn't just about income and freedom. It's about growth, connection, curiosity, and impact. He encourages us to pursue lifelong learning, take up new skills, explore new cultures, challenge ourselves, volunteer, teach, mentor, or build something that serves others. The goal isn't just to avoid boredom, it's to find fulfillment. You're no longer living someone else's script. You've earned the blank page. Now you get to write your own story. So don't waste this precious gift by drifting. Ask yourself, what excites me? What scares me in a good way? What contribution do I want to make to the world? True freedom isn't just the absence of work, it's the presence of purpose. And filling the void isn't a problem to solve. It's an opportunity to become the fullest version of yourself. This is where your real journey begins, not when you escape work, but when you discover why you wanted to escape in the first place. Up next, we'll talk about how to make that leap without fear, how to face your doubts and take bold action with clarity and courage. It's time for the fear cure formula. Every dream, no matter how exciting, comes with a shadow. That shadow is fear. Fear of leaving your job, fear of failing, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. It whispers questions like, what if it doesn't work? What if I lose everything? What will people think? And this fear is exactly what keeps most people trapped in lives they secretly want to escape. But here's the truth Tim Ferriss learned and now passes on to us. Fear is not your enemy. Avoidance is. The longer you ignore your fear, the more power it has. But when you confront it directly, you shrink it, you control it, and eventually you move through it. That's why Tim offers a powerful tool in this chapter, fear setting. Most people are familiar with goal setting. You define what you want and go after it. But fear setting is the opposite. You define what you're afraid of and then disarm it. He invites you to write down your worst-case scenario in vivid detail. Not just vague worries like things might go wrong, but real consequences. What would actually happen if you took the leap and failed? Then once you've written that out, ask yourself, how would I recover? What steps could I take to fix it, reverse it, or bounce back? And what you'll almost always find is this. The fear that seemed massive in your head becomes small and manageable when you see it on paper. Most people overestimate the cost of action and underestimate the cost of inaction. They imagine disaster if they take the leap, but never consider the slow decay of staying stuck. The boredom, the regret, the years slipping by. Tim pushes us to ask the harder question. What will my life look like if I don't do this in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10? What dreams will die? What potential will go unused? Once you face your fears, you often realize they're not as scary as you thought. And beyond them lies a version of your life that's bolder, freer, and more aligned with who you really are. Taking the leap doesn't mean you stop being afraid. It means you move forward despite the fear. It means you stop waiting for permission and start giving yourself a chance. Because regret is far more painful than failure. And the real risk isn't in trying and falling short. It's in never trying at all. By now, you've explored every piece of the 4-hour work-week lifestyle. Redefining success, cutting the clutter, building systems, liberating your time and location, finding purpose, and finally facing the fear that stands in the way. Most people work through their entire adult life dreaming of retirement as if it's the grand reward for decades of sacrifice. But here's a harsh truth. Many people never make it to retirement. And even if they do, they often find themselves too tired, too sick, or too lost to enjoy it. Tim Ferriss asks a bold question. Why wait until the end of your life to start living it? Instead of deferring joy, he introduces a radical alternative. Many retirements. Rather than grinding away for 40 years and hopping to squeeze in a few good ones at the end, why not sprinkle those retirement years throughout your life while you're still young, healthy, and curious? A mini retirement is more than just a vacation. It's a conscious break from routine, a reset, a deep immersive pause from the traditional script of work, home, sleep, repeat. It could be a few months living in a different country, a season spent learning a new language or skill. Time off to reconnect with your passions, your relationships, or yourself. The idea is to live now, not just later. And the best part, you don't need to be rich. Thanks to geo-arbitrage, the concept of earning at a strong currency like dollars or euros, and spending in a place with a lower cost of living. You can live well in many countries for far less than what you'd spend staying home. Places like Thailand, Mexico, Vietnam, or Portugal can offer you a high-quality life at a fraction of the cost. But the real value of mini retirement isn't just financial, it's psychological. It's about expanding your sense of possibility. When you step outside your daily life, you realize just how flexible reality can be. The rules you thought were fixed, work schedules, living locations, routines are often self-imposed. Once you taste that freedom, you can never unsee it. Many retirements also give you space to reevaluate, to ask, is the life I'm living the one I truly want? That clarity can lead to breakthroughs you'd never have inside the rush of everyday obligations. And here's something powerful. Once you take one mini retirement, you start planning the next. Life becomes a cycle of creation, exploration, and renewal. Instead of burnout, recovery, and regret. Tim's message is clear. Don't save all your freedom for the end. Take it in pieces. Build your life around living, not just working. Because when you spread joy across your years, not just pile it all at the end, your life becomes richer, fuller, and far more worth living. And now, with everything in place, freedom of time, income, and location, the only thing left is to step into that freedom with courage and intention. So here we are, the end of the summary, but the beginning of something far more powerful, your freedom journey. Through the principles of the 4-hour workweek, you've learned that life doesn't have to be a long, exhausting marathon towards some distant retirement. You've discovered that success isn't about working more. It's about working smarter. With purpose and clarity, you've been introduced to a new way of living, a life where time is your greatest currency, a life where freedom is designed, not delayed, a life where you're no longer stuck reacting to demands, but boldly choosing what matters most to you. Tim Ferriss didn't write this book to impress you with theory. He wrote it to wake you up, to show you that the rules you've been following were made by people no smarter than you and they can be rewritten. Now, the question is, will you take action? Because inspiration is temporary, but decisions are forever. Maybe your first step is small, saying no to something that drains you, or maybe it's big. Launching that business idea, booking that ticket, asking for remote work, or finally outsourcing the tasks that steal your peace. Whatever it is, don't let this summary just be another thing you listened to and forgot. Let it be the spark. Your freedom is not a fantasy. It's a formula. You've just heard the blueprint. Now it's your turn to build the life you truly want. If this summary opened your eyes, inspired your heart, or gave you a new direction, I invite you to share it, comment, and subscribe to Neuro Whispers for more powerful summaries that can reshape the way you think, work, and live. And before you go, ask yourself one final question. Not someday, but today. If you don't start designing your life now, what are you waiting for? Your time is your life. Your freedom is your right. Your story is still being written. Make it one worth telling. Thank you for listening. Keep learning, keep building. And never forget, the life you want is closer than you think.